Some people say the worst part of being betrayed is the screaming matches, but they are wrong. The true nightmare is the dead silence that stretches out right before the hammer falls. I learned this on a warm Friday evening when my wife of 5 years stood before the hallway mirror, adjusting a stunning crimson dress I had never seen before. She caught me looking and flashed a brief, practiced smile that did not quite reach her eyes. "Do not stay up for me," she murmured as she grabbed her purse, claiming it was just a casual night out with her closest friends. Her casual tone sounded completely artificial, and the heavy floral perfume lingering in the corridor left me feeling utterly hollow inside. For nearly 5 months, a strange distance had been creeping into our marriage, marked by muffled phone conversations at midnight and secretive texting. I chose to stay quiet during those long weeks, patiently waiting for the truth to unravel itself rather than starting an ugly confrontation. Once her car pulled out of the driveway, I opened the GPS tracking application on my tablet, realizing she had forgotten to revoke my shared access. The digital map tracking her vehicle showed a glowing dot parking right outside a dim lounge called the Rusty Anchor. This was a shady downtown dive bar she used to openly ridicule for being incredibly tacky. A cold, calm realization washed over me as I stared at the screen, understanding that the woman I loved was actively slipping away. An hour later, my phone buzzed with another message from her, stating she would likely spend the night at her friend Clara's apartment. There were no affectionate words or familiar emojis, just a freezing wall of emotional distance that shattered my remaining patience. That cold text message became the absolute tipping point for all the silent forgiveness I had extended over the past year. I refused to play the role of the foolish, waiting husband any longer while she treated our vows like a joke. I carefully typed a single, devastating sentence into the chat window, instructing her to say hello to her companion and mentioning he left his brown leather wallet under her front seat. I placed the device on the table, feeling a strange sense of peace wash over me as the storm finally arrived. She had no idea that I found that exact wallet belonging to her coworker, Todd, while vacuuming the floor mats the previous weekend. Within 90 seconds of sending that text, my phone began vibrating continuously on the wooden counter as she desperately tried to reach me. She called 20 times in a row, completely frantic now that the power dynamic had completely shifted. I poured myself a glass of bourbon and sat quietly near the front entrance, watching another panicked message flash across the lock screen saying she was speeding home. By the time her headlights cut through the darkness of our driveway, my emotional attachment to our marriage had completely withered away. The version of me that used to beg for her attention had died, replaced by someone who finally understood his own worth. She slammed the front door open, her breathing ragged, her dark mascara running down her pale cheeks as she looked at me like a ghost. She immediately dropped her bags and began stammering that the entire situation was just a massive misunderstanding. I took a slow sip of my drink, keeping my voice incredibly level as I noted how remarkable it was that Todd managed to lose his wallet without ever speaking to her. Her face turned completely white, and she stumbled backward against the wall, asking if I had been secretly spying on her life. I looked her dead in the eyes and explained that I never needed to spy when her own carelessness left clues everywhere. Her confident facade crumbled into heavy, desperate tears as she collapsed onto the living room sofa. She began offering a flood of pathetic excuses, claiming she only sought outside attention because our life had become so incredibly stressful lately. I cut her off instantly, refusing to let her twist her betrayal into my fault just to ease her immense guilt. She wept softly, insisting that they had never actually crossed the ultimate line together, but her words fell completely flat. I explained that physical acts do not destroy a marriage, but the deliberate choice to deceive your partner destroys everything. When she asked what our next steps would be, I stood up and told her I was finally following her original advice by not waiting around. I walked into the bedroom and began tossing my clothes into a large suitcase while she followed behind, begging for a second chance to fix things. I turned around slowly and told her she had hundreds of chances every single day. She looked at me and lied. She gripped my jacket tightly, sobbing hysterically, but her desperate tears no longer had any power over my heart. I spent that night in a quiet motel downtown, switching my phone to silent as the notifications piled up into the high double digits. By the following morning, there were dozens of agonizing voicemails and old photographs of our wedding day sent to my inbox. I deleted them without listening because desperation born from getting caught is completely different from true, genuine remorse. 2 weeks later, I officially delivered the separation paperwork to her office, refusing to let her emotional pleas sway my final decision. That painful night completely reshaped my existence, not because I lost a partner, but because I finally remembered how to respect myself. I discovered that staying in a broken situation out of comfort is far worse than braving the cold unknown alone. Now, when people ask why I am content living by myself, I just offer a knowing smile. The painful lesson my ex-wife taught me is that walking away from dishonesty is the greatest act of self-love a person can ever achieve.